The topic of today's short talk is choosing between two women. So this is a subject that actually comes up fairly frequently in my consultations with men. Either the man is choosing between two women he's been dating for a monogamous commitment, or it's a man choosing between his wife and his mistress. Since I see the same patterns of thought arise in all of these discussions, I thought I'd make an episode to address this issue proactively. Unfortunately, by the time the guy calls me, he's usually fairly distraught and confused. This is because he's in a state of vacillation, in the sense that he's going back and forth in his mind between option A and option B. Typically, he's comparing the two women with each other, sometimes even going so far as to create lists of relative pros and cons. And this is a problem for a number of reasons. First and foremost, the man's intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving skills are being constrained by these two options. In his mind, it's either option A or option B. That's all he can see. However, in reality, there's option A and option B, but also option C and D and E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. You get the idea. There's actually a whole bunch of options, but because his thought process is restricted, he can't see them. And this limits his freedom of action, which is generally to his detriment. When a man has the good problem of having multiple women in his life, he should never, ever, under any circumstances, ever make the mistake of comparing them with each other. Besides being the thief of joy, comparison generally leads to suboptimal outcomes. Why? Well, let's say that in your mind, option A is slightly better than option B. That is, you compare the two options to each other and found option A to be superior. Well, once you make the decision, option B evaporates as a basis of comparison, and you'll have to deal with option A on its own merits. And at that point, it may not be all that helpful that the option you chose was slightly better than the option you didn't. What's important is whether the option you chose is sufficient with respect to whatever your goals happen to be moving forward. So never compare option A with option B. In these situations, the question is not, do I go with A or B? The question is, do I go with A or not A? And independently, do I go with B or not B? Like, each relationship should be examined on its own merits and relative to your own self-relevant goals. This will increase the likelihood that your choice will make sense past the point of decision for some months or years afterwards. Here's another important thing to understand. The women in question might not like this, but sometimes the resolution to this problem is not an either-or solution. Sometimes it's a both-and solution, and sometimes it's a neither-nor solution. As I've said before, roads only go where they go. Roads are static. They go only from point A to point B along their given route. So, if option A is a road going north, and option B is a road going west, which road are you going to take? Well, that depends on where you want to go, doesn't it? This is why it's essential that you not compare the options against each other, but against your own goals, which is your destination. So, if you want to go southeast, then you should take neither road. This is because either road will actually take you farther and farther from where you want to go. Just because the road is at your feet doesn't mean it will take you where you want to end up. In some cases, you may even need to backtrack a bit because you've gotten so lost or turned around. But men who have become too constrained in their thought processes are subject to forgetting this common sense. This is why I ask these men to consider what they would choose for themselves if they weren't aware of what either one of these women wanted. This is because as long as the man is vacillating between these two options, he actually exists in the frames of these two women simultaneously. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word-of-mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this episode. I'm proud to announce that my book, The Value of Others, is now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. This book not only explains the game of modern dating, but it provides actionable advice on how to get and keep more of what you want in the sexual marketplace. Please check it out. I'm also writing original content for my free newsletter every week. If you'd like to sign up, you can do so through my website. Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're interested in booking a paid consultation. The links to everything I just discussed are in the description below. Please give them a gander. That's how you can support this channel and its mission. Okay, let's get back to it. So what does this mean? That a man exists in the frames of two women simultaneously? Well, let's say that the wife is demanding the man leave his mistress and stay with her, and that the mistress is demanding the man leave his wife and stay with her. Not only does this insist on a mutually exclusive decision that may not necessarily be required, but in his mindset, the man's entire range of optionality is either to give woman A what she wants, or woman B what she wants. Like, what about what the man wants? The choice is not between wife or mistress. This is a product of the women controlling the discussion. The choice is actually between the wife or no wife. Like, will the wife help the man go where he wants to go? And between the mistress and no mistress, that is, will the mistress help the man go where he wants to go? And this can be hard for men because many of them haven't thought about what they want in quite some time. This is because they have gotten so in the habit of serving their women, and they have gotten so comfortable existing in their women's frames. I did a consultation with a man the other day who had been married for 30 years, and he couldn't tell me what he wanted. Apparently no one had asked, or cared to ask for decades. He was just so used to being married, and catering to the demands and interests and preferences of his wife, that he kinda no longer existed as an independent person capable of self-directed thought. And while the women out there might not see any problem with this, I imagine my male audience might think very differently. So if option A goes north and option B goes west, then neither option is particularly useful if you want to go southeast. On the other hand, if you want to go northwest, well, you can make use of both roads, can't you? Head west, then north, then west, then north, then west. Or you can seek out a third option that heads northwest in a straightforward manner. Turns out there are actually plenty of roads. So it's important not to be constrained by a false dichotomy and to make your decision in the context of your overarching goals. At the end of the day, choosing between two women is a good problem to have. That's because it's a problem of abundance and optionality as opposed to a problem of scarcity and limitation. So nice work. However, what makes this problem so difficult for the majority of men is that they're not used to having this problem. They're not used to having abundance and optionality with women, so they still approach the decision with a scarcity mentality. And scarcity mentality is always more focused on minimizing loss than it is on maximizing gain, which can lead to all kinds of suboptimal outcomes. Hopefully, this helped disabuse some of you of that scarcity mentality.